All right, well, we're here, BWE Podcast. I'm with Jim Gillespie, the Executive Vice President here for Bellwether out of the New York City office. And we're in beautiful, sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. Do a little every year, get all the production team out, camaraderie event, right?
Great to be here today.
Always fun.
Perfect day.
Getting out of the cold back in Cleveland for me. In New York, I don't know what the weather's like doing, but can't get much better than this.
No.
So we're here to talk about private placement bonds. A lot of different nuances and things like that. I know we got a product started about 2019. So you're leading the charge on that. So I guess the first question is just jumping right in. If you can kind of talk about what private placement bond means, what it means for us here at Bellwether, what you're doing with the different components of that.
Sure. Well, thanks, Ryan. Again, it's wonderful to be here. So affordable housing oftentimes is financed with tax-exempt bonds. There are 4% and 9% low-income housing tax credits. With an allocation of tax-exempt bonds, you're, as of right, given 4% low-income housing tax credits. So there's a variety of ways to finance these bonds. The bonds are issued by a state or local municipality. The revenue income on those bonds is tax exempt. So it's an attractive investment for investors. Within the tax exempt bond industry, there's a variety of ways to finance the bonds, right? Before we had private placement, we were executing primarily with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac in the form of forward commitments. They don't take construction risk, but we would provide forward commitments from Fannie or Freddie, and we'd also do a cash-back bond structure through FHA or HUD. So when we introduced the private placement or direct bond purchase program, it gave us another arrow in our quiver to really another product to provide to our developer clients looking for financing on these types of projects. One of the benefits, it's a single source of funding for construction and permanent financing. Whereas with the agencies, you typically bring in a construction lender, so there's more parties involved.
When do you see a good opportunity for the private placement versus some of the other products that are available?
Well, every deal is unique. There are a lot of different factors that go into deciding what product works best for each deal. What we do at Bellwether is we will analyze, there's a lot of conversations with the production team, the developer and investors, but what's really the best execution for this transaction? A lot of times the tax credit equity investor will require or want to have a construction loan. So that will almost drive the deal to a Fannie Freddie forward execution. We can, however, do a participating construction loan in private placement. So that's an option as well. When we get a 4% tax credit deal, a bond opportunity in our shop, we will send it to our analyst team who will analyze the deal based on 3 different executions, usually Fannie, Freddie, private placement, come out with a gross proceeds level, look at what the costs are for each execution, and then come out with a net proceeds level to see from an purely economic perspective, which execution makes the most sense for the deal. Then we'll take that out. Production works with the developer to kind of walk through each of the pros and cons of each execution.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. You're not going into specific deals thinking beforehand, like this is going to be private placement. That's just
right.
One of the things you're looking into, and the opportunity that we have and the product that you have your access to, I guess, is
right.
That's kind of the biggest thing.
Some issuers, like in New York City, LIHTC or HFA do not allow for our private placement execution. So we're kind of off limits there, but most states allow it. So that's one consideration.
What was the process in 2019? Like, how did we get to the point where we want to implement this as one of our product offerings, and like how has that maybe evolved over the last couple of years?
It's kind of been on my to-do list for a while. I had in a prior life established and run a debt fund, if you will, that invested in these tax-exempt bonds. So through prior relationships with some of these investors, what we really do is we are deploying capital on behalf of these institutional investors. A lot of these institutional investors I had prior relationships with. And so in conversations, basically they said, well, why don't you use our balance sheet? We need your production team, your outlet. So we have 12 originators focused exclusively on affordable housing. So we are kind of a production outlet on behalf of the investors seeking to invest in these bonds. So through the relationships that I had maintained with these groups, we kind of started the program. We closed our first deal in October of 2019. We have form documents. We have underwriting templates in place. We've expanded our team. So we've really got a thing. There are a few different kind of lenders we compete with. One are the banks who are very aggressive in this space. There are some funds who exclusively focus on this product type. There's other lenders like us who have a broad variety of lending products. But what we've really done at Bellwether is we've built out a team of kind of bond experts who really know this program. We're involved from the day the deal comes in to be analyzed, sized, and priced to, managing through the whole life cycle to closing. So we've kind of got a team that's really, I'm proud of. I mean, we've got a great team. They do a great job. And I think that's a differentiator for us.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next question. Is like, who is this right for so far as a client perspective, and then why come to you versus some of these other? Obviously, you're being able to look at the private placements with some other lending sources and figure out what's best. But
Right.
Why reach out to you guys, and who's this right for?
I think anyone, shameless pitch, I think anyone who's got a 4% tax credit deal with bond financing should call the Bellwether team. I think we've really built a reputation in this market for being very good at executing on these types of transactions, not just private placement, but the agency executions as well. And, we have seen transactions when markets are disrupted, move from one execution to another. And if other shops only have kind of one program, one product, we have the ability to shift if necessary.
You talk about anybody who has a 4% deal to come to you. Is there instances where someone might not know that would be the proper avenue to go with the 4%? Like, we want to execute this. We need some funds or what have you. We don't really know if 4% makes sense. So we don't know if it would fit into with a private placement. We're starting from scratch. Like how to get to the point where, you kind of mentioned anybody who has a 4% deal, this could be perfect to reach out and
Right.
kind of works it down.
So usually a developer, owner, operator is acquiring a site or a property, right? And they intend to apply to the state, in most cases, for an allocation of tax-exempt bonds. And that's usually when we get involved, is to help them determine what's the best execution, what execution on the debt side marries well with the equity side, and helps them push through their application process. So it's usually the developer comes in, they've got a site or a property, they want to finance with 4% tax credits and bonds. We help them with the application process, and then as soon as they're awarded bonds, then we take off and go.
Gotcha. I mean, unless there's anything else, I think we kind of hit all the key points, and anybody out there should be giving you a call if they fit some of these check boxes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
thanks for sitting down with me here and talking about private placement bonds.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim.
You're welcome.